Stories of Transformation, Episode 10, a NRCDV radio podcast production. Social media has changed the face of advocacy. At no other time in our movement's history has there been so many opportunities and challenges to engage with an ever-growing list of audiences and project our message. Navigating the world of social media and building a digital strategy is a crucial component for every organization. But how do we get started and maintain a thoughtful process? I am Yvonne Ortiz. Today I'm pleased to speak with two experts in social media and digital marketing. Marisa Corser from the media strategy firm Peter Gallagher Group and Joe Ostrander of the NRCDV. We will explore how to engage audiences through social media and maximize this powerful medium to advance your communications and advocacy strategies. Stay tuned for a lively and engaging discussion full of tangible tips. Joe and Marisa, welcome to the NRCDV Radio. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
In today's world, and you guys know this better than anybody, we cannot deny the prevalence and the importance of social media platforms. And I'm just going to name a few as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and there's so many. Every single day it seems like there's a new one. So they have proven to be a very powerful source for us nonprofit organizations. And many organizations have implemented social media into their communications and outreach strategies. And having a strong online presence is especially important for us nonprofit organizations because most of us rely heavily on our supporters. So my first question is, our staff is already overextended. Does social media make sense for my organization?
It absolutely does. Ignoring social media for any organization or company is to your peril. Your audience is on social media and you need to be there too. It's so important to carve out time to engage on social media. It does not have to be a massive amount of time. Even if you're able to carve out 10% of your time to engage with your audiences, it's going to go a long way toward communicating the key messages that you have for your organization.
To support that, social media is incredibly important. And as you said, for nonprofits, and particularly for the organizations within our network who are not just looking to expand audiences for the services that they offer, but to expand their audience and their messaging around the social justice messages and the work that they're doing within their local communities or on a regional or state level. That's where their audience is, and that's where they can reach them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joe. So, do we need to hire a social media expert?
I'm going to field that because I am a social media expert. So this is what I do for a living. So I am going to say, yes, I think it's a good idea. Not always necessarily for the long term, but in terms of developing a strategy, showing you good ways to engage, having somebody outside of the organization who can look at your messaging and strategy and speak to some of the things that you need to be doing. Again, I know time is a concern and a consideration. So if you develop a strategy with somebody externally, and then you work internally to implement that, it can be simple things. Send 3 tweets a day. Post on Facebook once a day. Blog once a day on Tumblr. It does not have to be massive amounts of time, but if you do spend that time a little bit every day, you will reap the rewards from your audience.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, just by hearing you talk, what is a good source to learn the basics?
The best source to learn the basics, in my opinion, is to set up your own social media accounts, dip your toes in the water, and just start doing it. So the best thing, before you are ready to engage on behalf of your organization, you need to know how to engage on behalf of yourself personally. So the best strategy for me was, I joined Twitter in 2009. So the best thing for me to do was to just get started and start tweeting and figure out who I wanted to follow, who I wanted to be paying attention to. The same thing for Facebook and the same thing for LinkedIn and so on and so forth down the line. So I think that is absolutely your number one place to go, is to just start in the channel a little bit and start engaging.
I think that's a great strategy, as well as for organizations that may already be in it a little bit and want to expand or get maybe more formal in their policies. I think there are a couple good sources. There is an organization called the Nonprofit Technology Network. You can find them at ntn.org. They every year publish a report called the Digital Outlook Report. They survey hundreds of nonprofits about digital strategies on everything from websites and fundraising to social media. The 2017 report provides tools around evaluating your digital strategy. Whether you have absolutely no strategy at all within your organization, or you feel that your organization is very well established and expert, there's ways to measure where you are at. And the neat thing about this particular report is it also provides some guidance and some tips and tools on how to move through those phases. Everything from, just beginning your evaluation, creating profiles for your users. All these things it's a really good tool to use. And again, that's the Nonprofit Technology Network, nten.org. Another course that I use is called socialmediaexaminer.com. It's a great group that provides a lot of information and tips, again, on planning and managing digital media.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. Those are great resources. With so many platforms out there, which one should we choose if this is the first time we're engaging in social media?
I think that's one of the biggest questions that we get at Dieter Gallagher Group, and it is one of the hardest to answer. You need to fish where the fish are. Where is your audience? We are becoming continually impressed by LinkedIn. They've got some great new analytics. They have 467 million total users, 106 million which are active every month. Tumblr has between 30 and 50 million active users a month. Twitter, 328 million monthly active users. Facebook, there are experts who claim that Facebook is waning at nearly 2 billion users, waning away to where? It is the world's largest social network. So clearly your audience is on one or more of these channels. And that doesn't even cover Instagram and
Snapchat and
exactly.
Reddit and all the other ones that are out there. You're right, Yvonne, that there are just so many to choose from. It can seem overwhelming. Most people seem to lean towards Facebook and Twitter as being their primaries, and then Instagram is also very popular among our network. And I would echo what Marissa said, that you need to go where you believe your audience is. And this is unique to each organization. So one organization may find that Facebook is the best place to engage and grow their audience and promote their events and further their messaging. And another organization may find that it is Instagram. You really need to try to figure out who you want to reach and where they hang out. Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram?
Right.
You can ask people offline. Ask the people who you're already engaging with, who come to your events, who read your newsletter, who's on your mailing list. Ask them, where do they go? What do they do? And what types of things do they want to see on their social platforms and their feeds? You got to start there first and then work to build your audience.
If you are just starting out and you're really unfamiliar with social media, start with 2 channels. Don't try to go crazy and set up an account on every single social network. There are many to work with. So my number 1 is definitely going to be Twitter. Facebook comes after that, and then LinkedIn. So those are kind of my top 3 where I spend the most of my time. But again, that is going to change depending on your audience, depending on the organization that you're working with and who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, and if you want to try to reach out to a brand new audience, one that you typically don't talk to, let's say legislators, or their staff, then again, it's the same type of process. You just need to figure out where they are. What do they do? Look into their profiles. Go to Twitter and search if they're there. If they're there, well, then that's where you need to be. If they're on Facebook, then that's where you need to be.
That's a great tip. So, Marissa, you mentioned that if we're starting to engage in social media, just to open an account for ourselves. But what's the difference between using social media on my behalf or, the organization's behalf?
Your social media profile is your digital tattoo. For me personally, there is no distinction between what you post professionally for your organization and what you post personally, because your audience is seeing both. And so you always want to be conscious of who you're speaking to and who you might be offending. And you don't want to post photos of yourself drinking on Facebook, because your audience is going to see, they're going to see those kinds of things. So you're posting and saying, well, I went out and got drunk. Well, your boss sees that and your audience sees that. The other organizations that you work with, they see that. And they're forming opinions and impressions about you based on that. And it is harder then to take what I say as a representative of my organization seriously if I'm not taking my personal social media profile seriously.
One of the things you have to remember is when you're posting on social media, as Marissa said, whether it's on a personal account or it's on your organizational company's account, that in some way, you are representing the organization. And everything that's posted, every message that's put up there, everything that is retweeted or shared is as if your CEO was saying it.
That's right.
And you have to think about that from the perspective of how will this come back and reflect. And then as Marissa was commenting about, your personal or your staff's personal accounts can also have an effect on how your organization can be viewed, particularly if you personally are out there in your community and you're a figure within your community.
When I put every social media post that I do through a litmus test. Number one, is it helpful? Number two, what I say to my boss. Number three, what I say to my mother. Number four, in 5 years, do I want to be defined by what is being said here? Your digital tattoo is indelible. Once you say it online, it's not going anywhere. And I don't say that to scare people or to make them feel like, oh, I can't get on social media, I'm going to make all kinds of mistakes. I say that to encourage you to think carefully before you post, before you comment, just to be mindful of what you're liking and groups that you're engaging in, because it creates a digital tattoo. It creates a social presence for yourself that future employers are going to look at, that your organization is going to be looking at, that your boss is going to be looking at, and it is there for a lifetime. It is not going away.
That is the truth. So Joe, as the communications manager for the NRCDV, you know what works best on Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr. Can you give us some examples of the postings that have a lot of reactions? What works best for each social media platform?
Thanks, Yvonne. That's a good question, because by all means, certain content will definitely perform better than others. And that goes across different platforms as well. So take Facebook, for example. Facebook is a much more informal platform, with the users of that medium expecting to see different types of posts, both serious and informal or not so serious. The nice thing about Facebook is it also provides you larger space in order to provide more detail in the content in the postings. At NRCDV, we use our Facebook pages primarily to inform people about the events we have and the materials and resources that we've created. Facebook allows us to give more detail in those postings. We also share relevant news articles and the resources that our partnering organizations will create. Photos are key on Facebook. In fact, graphics and photos will perform 44% better than just text posts, and that is not just for Facebook. It does go for other platforms as well. Videos will perform 63% better than just text posts. And a note about videos, you need to make them short, and you need to subtitle them so that the users of the platforms can watch those videos, the thing that we do scrolling through, and you can see the videos and sort of read them without the sound on. These types of posts will definitely be more engaging and will get you better results and what you want in your social media engagement.
And when people say, well, what should I post and what types of things should I post? The first thing that I try to do is an 80-20 rule, which is 80% useful information. So from NRC's perspective, those are the resource papers we develop, the special collections, the webinars that we're having. We're sharing other resources from the other national or regional organizations that we partner with. And then 20% self-promotion. 20%, hey, this is what we're doing, or this is, some sort of great thing that we've done to sort of self-promotion. If you find that balance, then you won't turn your audience off. If you're doing mostly self-promotion, after a while, people will just scroll past you because they don't expect to find anything that is relevant to their day.
You want to be looking for interesting, engaging content you can share with people. But again, the key word there, engaging. Ask people, especially on Facebook, especially on Twitter, ask them for their thoughts on what you've posted. Ask them what their experience has been. People love to answer questions about themselves. They love to share and talk about what's happening. So if you ask people to engage and you say, tell us what you think about this in the comments, and then you respond to them and engage them in a conversation. Social media is a conversation. It is not just a one-way push of content. So offer them the opportunity to talk back and forth and dialogue with you. The most successful organizations in social media, they are the ones that are engaging their followers, they are engaging their audience in a dialogue.
I think that goes back to one of the questions you asked earlier about should you hire an expert. And while hiring somebody or engaging with an outside source, even from a temporary standpoint, is very valuable, I know that realistically some organizations just cannot do that. They just don't have the capacity or the funds to do that. But if you're going to get involved in social media, you need to be realistic about the capacity your staff has in order to keep up with it. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be something that people are tied to constantly. But you do need to set up precedents with your audience of what your responses or your engagement will be when they try to reach out to you. So I always tell people, be careful. If your response rate is immediate, then your people are going to expect that. And one day when it's not, they will be disappointed. So you need to that needs to be part of that strategy in the beginning.
It is absolutely as well a top-down initiative. Social media engagement comes from the culture of the organization. And so when Joe is at the level he's at, is empowered to do his job as the communications manager, and then the people who work for him are empowered by him to do their job in engaging. And then it becomes a culture where people are comfortable engaging the audience in the different social networks. And that's so important because, again, people want to feel like they're talking to people. Business, whether we're talking about for-profit or non-profit, it is person-to-person communication. We do not want to feel like we're going into a voicemail system. We do not want to feel like we're being answered by a computer. We want to know there's a human being on the other end of that screen who cares about what it is we're saying as an audience.
Great. These are amazing and great tips for our nonprofits. So we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask, now that we have created a page, how do we expand our audience? What are some tips to expand our audience?
There are so many great ways to do it. Number one, follow. Look for other organizations that you are interested in, the content that they're sharing. Look for other thought leaders. Follow their pages, like their content, comment on their posts, engage with them in dialogue on Twitter and on Instagram. So the more that you're out there engaging in content and sharing content, the more you're going to build an audience, because people are going to say, Joe is a thought leader in his organization. I want to see what he has to say. Pay attention to hashtags. Look for relevant hashtags. We haven't touched on that yet. For the topics that are of interest to you, follow those. Take note of the people who are discussing the topics that are relevant to your organization, and follow and pay attention to them and engage with them so that they will follow you back. In terms of budgeting, because I know this is a concern, a really great thing to do is to just do a little bit of boosting on your posts, on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, do a few Twitter ads. Increasingly, social media organizations, they've got to find a way to make money just like everybody else, and it is more and more, it is pay to play. When you put $10 into a post or something like that on Facebook, it gives you an opportunity to see if this goes in front of more people, how is this performing? Whereas if it's just sitting on my page and the Facebook algorithm's not working out in my favor this time. So it's worth it to spend a little bit of money to boost some of your posts, or to run an ad to get some additional likes, just to see. You're spending all this time and energy and personal resources on creating these posts and creating this content that you're sending out, that you're putting on your website, and then pushing out to your different social networks. So spend the time and a little bit of extra money to see, if I boost this, what's going to happen with it. Another really great tip that I use all the time, I go through my Facebook pages and I look for who has liked these posts. And I go through that list and I invite those people to like the post. To like the page. It only takes a few minutes, but it is really rewarding. And you will find that you'll get a little bump in the number of people who are liking your pages.
Wonderful. We have a couple of minutes left. Any last thoughts or tips?
I do have a couple last tips. In terms of insights and analytics, it's so important to measure what you're doing. So take the time. Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, all three, have analytics built into the back end that are absolutely free. So take the time to look through those, see which posts are performing well. Take a look at what times of day you're getting better engagement, and then try to build a strategy going forward that goes around what those analytics are telling you. But don't be discouraged. Don't think I only got one retweet or I only got 2 likes. It is amazing the number of times people will come up to me and say to me, oh, I saw this post that you did. I really, really like that. Oh, I saw that there was a video of you that you were on television. A lot of times people are seeing your content and not necessarily engaging with it actively, but that doesn't mean that they didn't see it and don't remember it. So don't be fooled either by the analytics. Use them, but don't look at them as the be-all and end-all. Pay attention, but know that the most important thing that you can be doing is engaging with your audience with quality content that is rich and informative and caring about the people that you're expressing your messages to, and I'm telling you, you cannot go wrong with that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marissa. Joe, do you have any other tips that you want to share?
Yeah, I think I'd just like to say, because I know people get concerned about the messaging and what they're putting out there, and trying to make messages for multiple audiences. Everybody always wants to reach everyone, right? Don't worry about that. That is the eternal challenge of every communicator. Message for your primary audience. Who is the people that you really want to speak to, and speak to them. Others will get your message, and if it speaks to them, they will follow. But if you're trying to reach everybody, your message will get watered down and you won't reach anyone. If once in a while we get lucky and we create a message that has this more wider and a universal reach and it gets picked up, and when that happens, just count your blessings and take that one with it, but don't try to recreate it. Just go with it.
Wonderful.
I completely agree.
Thank you both. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thanks, Marissa.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
You just listened to Stories of Transformation, an NRCDV radio podcast production. Thank you to my guests today, Marissa Corsair and Joe Ostrander. You can read Marissa's and Joe's answers to additional questions that we did not have a chance to cover during the interview on the media page of NRCDV.org under episode 10 of our podcast list. While there, be sure to check out our other episodes. NRCDV has also developed a technical assistance guidance on social media that can be found through our online resource library at www.pawnet.org. NRCDV radio podcasts are brought to you by the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence and supported by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Administration for Children and Families, Family and Youth Services Bureau.